Hello and welcome to Airheads, a not-so-serious look at the serious business of royal rumours, gossip and gowns. I'm Tom.
And I'm Maeve.
And this week we are exhausted after the first week back at school.
I am just wiped out from even reading about what Princess Charlotte was doing on her first day at school.
Yeah, so she's just started at Thomas's Battersea, which is where George goes to school. And apparently art, ballet, drama, ICT, French, music and physical education are all taught by specialist teachers from a child's first day. That's exhausting.
What a first day. I mean, it's crazy. Like, how do you possibly program all of that? Like, I think you found a little bit of insider intel, though.
Oh, yeah. No, apparently, according to The Sun, they just play with Play-Doh on the first day.
I'm a teacher. All I need are minds for moulding.
We've heard a little bit about this school before because Prince George started there 2 years ago, but basically the kind of headline notes about the school are that they emphasise the importance of kindness, and their motto is basically be kind, but the actual motto that they have inscribed in stone in the school is rather death than false of faith.
And faith is spelled F-A-Y-T-H-E. It's totally intense and archaic.
The other big point about this school is that they encourage the pupils not to have best friends. They even have pictures on their website of children sitting back to back to illustrate that they are not best friends. They are banned because they basically don't want children to feel left out and like form cliques and stuff. They want everybody to be friends with everybody.
I don't know if anyone told you about me. I'm a new student here. My name is Katie Hare.
Talk to me again and I'll kick your ass.
And I'm sure everybody is going to want to be friends with Princess Charlotte, who will be known in the school as Charlotte Cambridge. No, Her Royal Highness.
She's going to be known as Lottie.
I think she's going to be known as PC. Like, there was all this stuff about how George also doesn't use his title at school, but his nickname there is PG. I think these kids probably make sure everybody knows.
The photos on the website are really good. They have like a slideshow going past the headmaster's letter, and one of them shows an electrode plugged into a broccoli.
Is that art? Is it ICT? Is it drama?
I'm pretty sure it's ballet.
But we got to talk about these pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Sensational snaps. These are pictures for the history books. As of Thursday morning, we saw our little ensemble of Will, George, Kate and Charlotte strolling in on the first day. It was the first day for Charlotte, but also for Kate because she had to miss out on Prince George's first day. It was during her pregnancy with Louis and she was suffering from really bad morning sickness. So this was also her first time doing the school run with Charlotte.
And, oh my god, she made it count.
So Charlotte has already been starting trends.
In case you were wondering what the next hot trend was going to be for 4-year-olds, don't worry.
I couldn't have guessed it was going to be a £3 pink sequined unicorn keychain that was hanging off of her Thomas's Battersea school bag. Just to add a little bit of personality, as we know, Charlotte is a fan of unicorns. We saw her with that unicorn purse back at the Polo.
You say
great accessory.
As we know, but is it more as we've been led to believe?
I do think it is very savvy to have this very cheap accessory that they know that the royal watchers are going to identify really quickly and find out, oh, it's only £3. How frugal these Cambridges are, yet again hitting that just like any other middle class family button.
I mean, we wouldn't be the only people to be questioning the authenticity of Charlotte's presentation here, because Judy James, our favourite body language expert, really went in on this and said the way she lagged behind her mum did suggest shyness at first, but a lot of her body language rituals suggest a kind of slight superficial shyness.
Catty or what?
Superficial for a 4-year-old.
Poor Charlotte. Oh my god. She did look a little bit nervous. She was kind of shyly hiding, well, what looked to me like genuine shyness, hiding behind her mother when they were walking in. She was fidgeting with her ponytail. Bet that ponytail didn't last through lunch.
Oh yeah, she looked like she was really looking forward to letting her hair down.
Speaking of hair though, this whole event, Charlotte's first day, was totally upstaged by Mummy's new hair.
We love Mummy's new hair.
The coverage of this hair was absolutely breathless. People were freaking out. Kate's gone blonde.
Which I had never heard before, but I love.
This is a very recent change. She didn't have this colour hair when we saw her on the car ride to church in Balmoral. It's kind of a honey highlights, a little bit shorter, not those sausage curls we usually see in the regular Kate bouncy blow dry. But the language around this was totally outrageous. They had hairstylists describing it as her new working mum look. It's practical, it's relaxed. In what world is this hairstyle relaxed? Truly everything about this hairstyle screams high maintenance.
Yeah.
There is nothing practical about it. She was up at dawn. She spent hours getting those honey highlights.
Yeah, and then she just like whipped Charlotte's hair into a ponytail and they were out.
There was some reports out this week about school-run style and how British mothers, according to eBay, they spend £425 million a year on the outfits they wear for the school run, and like a ton of them actually just buy clothes for bringing their kids to school.
We have to earn our good mom badges all over again. Has she gotten fatter over the summer? Does she look older? These questions get asked, Ed, and we all get judged all over again.
Kate's take on this was, relatively affordable for her. It was a Michael Kors, that's the diffusion line, carnation print silk dress. Cost £215. Obviously completely sold out now. But it was clever of her, I thought, because it was a rewear. We had seen the top of it when she was driving to Harry and Meghan's wedding rehearsal dinner. So it was smart in that way because she gets the credit for it being a rewear, but it's basically new to all of us. Also coordinated with the colours of the school uniform.
Yeah, red and navy, they're good school uniform colours for kind of matching as an adult.
She'd have a little bit of trouble with matching though, because she decided to wear a black belt and blue shoes. The heels were the bit that kind of took this over the edge for me. It was a little bit too, I'm the alpha mummy. Like, I loved the dress and the hair was very glam. She was very tan from the Mustique holiday.
Healthy glow.
But I don't see why some flat loafers couldn't have been subbed in for the courts. In general, the whole effect of these photos was portrait of a perfect family.
And it was setting George up very well, I think, for his role as future king. You know, he gave a very firm handshake to the headmistress.
Loved that.
That was pretty bizarre to see from a 6-year-old.
Also, really liked that the teacher dressed the part. She seemed to be doing a little bit of Kate Middleton cosplay. She was wearing a very Kate-like polka dot LK Bennett dress, one of Kate's favourite brands. She also wore an LK Bennett dress for George's first day, which looked like an almost identical version of a pink V-neck peplum Alexander McQueen dress that Kate herself has worn. So, she wanted to make a good impression, and I'm sure she did.
Well, from one royal first to another, last week Prince Andrew became the first royal to have his invitations withdrawn.
I know, we're finally starting to see some real world effects of the Epstein scandal for the royal family. This has got to be the first time a royal has ever been disinvited from an event. There was an exclusive in Sky News last week that Andrew was due to have a series of engagements in Northern Ireland, but they were cancelled, and not by him. Organisers withdrew their invitations, with one expressing concerns that his presence would, quote, change the narrative surrounding their event. Fucking understatement.
Yeah, Jesus.
So the one that's cancelled was a pretty inoffensive one, like ceremony at Portrush Railway Station, which had just had a £5 million upgrade. He's still due to attend some other engagements, one of which is extremely problematic. It's a golf tournament the Duke of York Young Champions Trophy for boys and girls aged under 18.
Everyone under 18. You couldn't have a worse photo opportunity for Andrew.
He's a patron of the club, so they don't feel they can withdraw the invitation, but everybody is dying for him not to come.
I mean, they literally have a photo of him hung up in the clubhouse.
There were some quotes in the Times this week. Some of the members were worried that unwelcome publicity for the club would ensue if the Duke should find himself photographed next to a teenage girl. I mean, obviously, that is the money shot. Every snapper is going to be trying to get that pic. One member of the club told the Times, of course, no one wants to disinvite the Duke, but maybe it would be best for everyone if he decided he wasn't able to come.
God.
The Palace have said that the Duke of York has a full programme in Northern Ireland. However, there are no engagements listed for him on the Royal Diary online. If you just think about how this would be covered if Meghan Markle had been disinvited from an event, this would be the splash. It would be on the front of all the tabloids, even with the ongoing chaos of Brexit. They would definitely make space for this story, but it's been very hard to find details in the tabloids about this. We did see a tabloid story today from The Sun. It was about some of Andrew's own invitations issued to Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell to Beatrice's 18th birthday.
I can't remember the last time my skin crawled more than reading this.
Like double whammy, Epstein and Weinstein at this Victorian-themed party at Windsor Castle in 2006. Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, who runs the label Marchesa, she even designed Beatrice's dress. The even more shocking thing was that it was only 8 days after this party that Epstein was held on suspicion of soliciting young girls for prostitution, which was then followed by him serving 13 months. 8 days!
This story shows a different side of what's been going on with the Andrew Epstein stuff. The story has been phrased so much around him going to America, going to Epstein's properties. This just shows how it worked the other way around too. These men were invited into his home life, into his family's life.
They were obviously much closer friends than he's let on. So on Saturday, Andrew returned to his first official royal duty since all the Epstein craziness. It was the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Bruges. So he went to Bruges and he put a wreath on a stand and he hung out with Prince Laurent. He looks very pale, he looks very tense, he looks very awkward. He fumbled with the wreath a little bit. Apparently a TV news reporter asked if he was going to cooperate with lawyers in America over his links with Epstein and he just ignored the question. But we've also been getting some great details about the comparisons between Andrew and Laurent.
Laurent is the clown prince of Belgium. He's the younger brother to King Philippe. So he's similarly a spare, not an heir. He's also been criticised for his behaviour. He was on the phone during the national anthem at Belgium's National Day parade in July. So you had his family trying to get him to get off the phone and pay attention. But more than that, he also has a load of dodgy friends. So he spent time with Colonel Gaddafi, the Libyan dictator.
Oh, yikes. And like Andrew, he has complained about feeling that the royal odds were stacked against him. He has spoken of his hurt that so much more opportunity and attention was given to his elder brother. Like, story of Andrew's life.
Yeah.
We did get a little update on the relations between Andrew and Charles this week, though. There was a really good story in the Mail about Andrew flying into a furious rage at a senior palace aide, so furious that Charles had to ask him to apologise.
And he didn't.
This just paints a really ugly picture of Andrew. The source had to reject the suggestion that it was a physical assault on the aide. They told the Mail there were heated words on both sides, but the altercation was in no way physical. It was a verbal dispute. It was a work-related issue. The Duke got very cross that what he wanted wasn't possible. What a brat!
Yeah, that is so spoiled. Such a tantrum. So Charles heard about the row. Andrew went and explained the situation to him, and apparently they left it at that. There was no apology because there was nothing to apologise for. The Duke maintains a good relationship with the Prince of Wales. What a disclaimer line that means absolutely nothing.
No. They even had a friend of Fergie chiming in. The Duke has never assaulted anyone. What are these quotes? One of the quotes was particularly interesting, though. It was a statement from the palace, which appears in the print edition but has vanished from the online version, in which they confirmed this altercation. They said, some time ago there was a disagreement between the Duke of York and a member of staff. The disagreement was resolved and there are no ongoing issues.
Absolutely none. But if you wanted to ask Andrew yourself what happened in this fight, you won't be able to because he's turned comments off on his Instagram.
Very interesting development.
Yeah.
I thought we'd seen the end of the private jets, but they took off again this week. This has got to be one of the most poorly timed launches for an initiative in royal history.
Harry flew to Amsterdam this week on a commercial flight to launch a sustainable travel initiative called Travelist. So this is the first project from the Sussex Royal Foundation.
He knows he's going to have to talk about the private jet drama. So in his speech, he makes a little allusion to it. We can all do better, and while no one is perfect, we are all responsible for our own individual impact. The question is what we do to balance it out. So he made it pretty clear that this idea of balance, and particularly offsetting your carbon, is his own personal solution to this dilemma, and he talked about it a little bit more in the Q&A as well, because when he was asked more directly about his own use of private jets.
I came here by commercial. I spend 99% of my life travelling the world by commercial. Occasionally there needs to be an opportunity based on a unique circumstance to ensure that my family are safe, and it's generally as simple as that. But as I said in my speech, for me, what it is about balance. And if I have to do that, not a decision that I would want to take, but if I have to do that, then I will ensure, as I have done previously, and I will continue to make sure that I do, is to balance out that impact that I have. And I've always offset my CO2.
Saying that you spend 99% of your life travelling by commercial is just inviting people to then study all of your flights, which, of course, people did. The Daily Mail immediately started going through all of his known flights since his marriage, and straight away had a piece up that 6 out of 10 trips since his wedding have been on private jets. I take all this with a pinch of salt, but those are the kind of headlines because by talking about it so explicitly, he was giving them license to keep screaming about the private jets for another week. It's just such woeful timing. This whole thing has been overshadowed now by people talking about private jets, and nobody even knows what Travelist is. So from what I can tell, it's a collaboration between 5 big companies, Booking.com, Ctrip, Skyscanner, TripAdvisor and Visa, which is aimed at improving conservation efforts, protecting the environment and helping develop the economies of communities involved in the tourist industry. But there aren't any concrete plans. According to The Guardian, it's probably going to be something like a new industry-wide certification or badge of sustainability. It seems like a very practical and very clear thing that could be really useful when you're travelling, but it doesn't really address whether we need to be flying less. One place Harry and Meghan decided not to fly to this summer was Balmoral.
I would also use carbon emissions as my excuse not to go to Balmoral this summer.
There was a story this week in The Sun, an exclusive, that Harry and Meghan had snubbed the Queen's invitation to her castle in Scotland, that they had been due to visit her at some point over the summer. We've talked about it on basically every episode of the podcast for the whole summer, that they were going to Balmoral, and never happened. Supposedly they felt that they were too busy and that Archie was too young. But I think you can kind of look at this two ways. So either the tabloids are just covering their asses because they have been reporting all summer long that Harry and Meghan are going to Balmoral, and now it turns out that their reports were wrong and they need to have some kind of explanation. Or maybe after seeing those grinning church photos of Andrew and the Queen and the Cambridge's little stunt with the budget flights, they just said, please excuse us from this narrative and we are going to stay the hell away from all this.
According to the Mail on Sunday, the Queen is hurt and disappointed because she loves going to Balmoral and she loves having everyone come to see her, and she was apparently looking forward to a few days of merry chaos with the great-grandchildren, including Archie.
It's total tough nonsense.
And also very annoying that, like, friend or family member who's desperate to spend time with you, but you have to travel to the ends of the earth to see them. Like, they live next to each other.
Then this really blew up into a big thing when Meghan decided to fly to New York to see Serena Williams play in the US Open. So I think there's like a couple of interesting things about this, because people were saying, well, this obviously shows her schedule isn't so busy that she can't visit the Queen, even though Boris Johnson was visiting the Queen in Balmoral this weekend, so they wouldn't have gone at the same time.
Yeah.
And secondly, as Lainey Gossip pointed out, if Meghan was such a social climber as she has been painted in all of the media reports about her in the last 2 years, why wouldn't she want to be as close as possible to the seat of power and hobnobbing with the Queen? So Meghan flew to New York on Friday, last minute change in the schedule, apparently. She flew commercial from Heathrow, but immediately criticism started rolling in that she would fly long haul just to watch a tennis match. And then following that, all of the headlines were Meghan leaves Archie, Meghan leaves 4-month-old baby, Meghan leaves Harry and Archie in Windsor to fly to New York. There was a really horrible column in the Mail, pretty much explicitly calling her a bad mother, and the idea that any woman who would want a break from her child after 4 months is some kind of monster.
Yeah, and, you know, I guess this also implies that Harry is just ignoring the child over this 48-hour period.
So we should talk a little bit about what she did in New York. So she arrived on Friday, and in a totally amazing Tiggish Meghan move, she goes straight to a West Village yoga studio and does a hot yoga class.
So good. With 60 other people.
I love this story. I would freak out. I would not be able to think about my intention or or focus on my breathing. I would be hyperventilating if Meghan was in my yoga class. But I love the idea that Americans would feel protective of Meghan and not want to be sending pictures of her to the Daily Mail.
It's like she went directly to this, like, American yoga community that just, like, seals itself around her and protects her from the outside world, which I love.
Namaste, bitch.
We also learned that she visited her friend Daniel Marton, the makeup artist who has a tendency to share pictures of the food he eats with Meghan. So we've previously seen his Instagram posts of the avocado toast he had with Meghan and of the biscuits that he had at Meghan's baby shower. This time it was his birthday and he shared a photo of a platter of cupcakes. And he wrote in the caption, "Meg, love you, friend, for surprising me on my special day." How sweet.
That's very nice. But what I love is his photos are always so shit. Like,
they're so off-brand for Meghan. The lighting is terrible. The composition is terrible. They're blurry. The food doesn't look particularly appetizing. He slaps on these tacky stickers. I kind of love it, though.
Yeah, it's quite nice to have that friend who's, like,
a little bit naff.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more like is kind of the antithesis of you, and like you kind of play off each other. But yeah, sure, naff.
The main takeaway from this trip is that Meghan is a good friend because she was surprising Daniel Marton, and the main point of the trip was to support Serena Williams in the US Open final. She sat in Serena's box with her husband Alexis Ohanian and also Anna Wintour. Great pictures of the two of them whispering, US Vogue cover incoming.
That would be amazing. Just straight off the bat, another one.
Sadly, Serena lost. Of course, Meghan was blamed. The splash on the Daily Mail website this morning was that Meghan had jinxed the match and she was bad luck for Serena. So
this is a literal witch hunt. They are accusing her of having magical powers and causing misfortune to people.
But I kind of love this move on Meghan's part after supposedly snubbing the Queen, that she goes to visit the real Queen, Serena Williams. But of course, she was slammed at every turn. That was a tennis reference.
I didn't get that. predictably. They loved this new detail that they've clearly found out this week, that Meghan had apparently said that she wanted to break the internet with her Vogue cover. You got this great line in the Mail on Sunday explaining the origins of break the internet. The phrase was popularised by US reality star Kim Kardashian after she released an image of herself wearing black latex and appearing to pour champagne into a glass balanced on her bottom. Is this appropriate for a senior member of the royal family?
Like, you can hear them sweating as they type that.
Yeah.
Like, their heart rate just surging.
Their fingers slipping on the keys.
Yeah, like spittle flying out of their mouth. I mean, is it appropriate for a man who is accused of having sex with a teenager to hang around with a bunch of teenagers at a golf tournament?
I just want to see someone Photoshop Charles's head onto that cover of Kim Kardashian, and if I don't see it within the next week, I'm doing it myself.
Again, there's the implications that Meghan is just fame hungry and tacky and dragging down the family. When you have a senior member of the royal family who has been dragging down this family for years by inviting predators to his teenage daughter's birthday party, among other events.
I feel like I say this like every week, but it is mind-boggling the way these two individuals are treated. But the US Open wasn't the only sporting event attended by a royal this week. We had Prince William visiting Hendon Football Club in North London. He's president of the Football Association, and he was there to promote the Heads Up campaign, which is being run by his charity Heads Together. This campaign seeks to raise awareness and encourage conversations around mental health, particularly among men. But he also talked to the coaches while he was there about racism.
These have got to be some of the woolliest, vaguest comments you've ever heard from a royal. It sounds like he was just talking out of his arse, basically. People are now talking a little bit about mental health issues, but I imagine talking about racism is still quite a difficult subject. We've got to do something about it. I'm fed up with it. I'm so bored of it. This is the art of doing nothing. Like,
he did say that it's outrageous what's happening, and he was referring in particular to some recent abuse which was suffered by Chelsea striker Tammy Abraham and the Inter Milan forward Romelu Lukaku. So he is, he's responding to events and he is drawing attention to something which is important, but he's doing it in such a way as to be saying nothing.
The things that he is saying at this sound like they are just coming right off the top of his head. He says, Heads Up is about mental health, but we're going to start doing stuff on racism as well because it's affecting mental health. I mean, we're going to start doing stuff on racism? That is extremely inarticulate from the future king of England. And also just the absolute cheek of him to be saying stuff like this when there is an incredibly racist campaign against a member of his own family. Is he bored of that? Is he fed up of that?
He's talking on the spot, which means he hasn't thought about this at all before. So when he's talking about doing stuff on racism, he's never had to consider it, which means he hasn't considered what it's like for Meghan.
But we learned this week, as if it wasn't already patently obvious, that the royals aren't so great at communication.
There was a profile of Ivor Mountbatten in Tatler. He is the cousin of the Queen. He's very royally connected. He's, in fact, I think related to both the Queen and Prince Philip. And last year he got remarried to a man. He had previously been married to Penny Thompson, a wedding attended by Prince Edward and Princess Margaret, but they split in 2010. Since then, he met and subsequently married James Coyle in 2018.
No members of the royal family went this time. Tatler asked Ivor Mountbatten about whether him coming out had been good for the royal family, and he laughs like, well, you'd hope so. And then we get what is one of our quotes of the week this week, where he says, but then they don't really talk about it. I mean, the royals, they don't communicate very well.
This is the confirmation of something that has been so obvious all summer.
It's a landmark thing to have a member of the royal family marrying another man, to come out as queer. You know, we had this big story this year about Will saying he'd be totally fine if one of his children came out as LGBT. But here we have a member of the royal family who is actually LGBT, and supposedly no one in the royal family wants to talk about it. So it doesn't sound totally fine to me.
I'm looking forward to when this turns up in the Crown, although I imagine that Peter Morgan will have to let the royal family know about it in advance.
Oh yeah, this is my quote of the week. There was a great piece in The Guardian this weekend where a writer spent a lot of time on the set of The Crown. They also spoke to Peter Morgan, the writer, about how he meets members of the royal household 4 times a year, people who are very active within the organisation. And he said, respectfully, I tell them what I have in mind and they brace themselves slightly.
Oh my God.
So, like, by the way, we're going to be talking about Philip's affair, so brace yourselves. Like, oh my God, so good. I'm intrigued. I would love to see the reaction among the royal household when Peter Morgan informs them that he's going to be going into detail about Charles's relationship with Camilla.
Speaking of Camilla, we have to get to our, well, certainly my Fit for a Queen consorts this week. I, perhaps predictably, have to go for Camilla's raspberry ensemble at the Braemar Games. Something that I love about Camilla's outfits is you never find out who they're by or where they're from. They just sort of conjured into existence. But I've never seen anything quite like this. So she was wearing a raspberry pink coat with green tartan lapels and matching buttons and lining. She also wore a matching blouse with a sort of directional neckline, which I loved. I mean, she could have just been sitting in an awkward position. And a pink skirt that matched the coat. But she finished it with a claret headpiece, a hat that was decorated with 2 beautiful feathers.
It was a really striking look. As Edward Enninful once said, she wears her clothes with such integrity, and I agree.
Oh, hear, hear.
But I have to give my Fit for a Queen to Meghan, because the outfit that she wore to the US Open was so loaded with meaning. And I love that about Meghan. So in this case, it was a denim belted shirt dress, a little nod to the criticism of her wearing jeans at Wimbledon, and also a coatigan, so like cardigan jacket thing, both by J. Crew, very affordable brand. They were £134 and £165 respectively. So again, after all the criticism of her having this luxury celebrity lifestyle, she's wearing high street brands that anybody can buy, and they have bought because they're sold out now. I also loved that she was wearing a little nod to Harry and Archie with an initial necklace by Many Many Jewels.
You know, she wore Harry and Archie close to her heart, which I loved. The necklace has like little birthstones in the tag, which I feel like is so Meghan to have like crystals and everything. Which
is one of the reasons why Meghan is our first in line this week.
Yeah, this is despite Kate's best bid to be Alpha Mummy. I think that Meghan still manages to pip her to the post.
Meghan was coming off the back of all of that Thomas Markle nonsense from last weekend, and she responded beautifully, as we predicted a few weeks ago when Sussex Royal started sharing Insta quotes. We knew they would use them to defend themselves, and that is exactly what they did. In this case, they used a quote from Nelson Mandela, which said, "It is so easy to break down and destroy. The heroes are those who make peace and build."
So good as well, because Nelson Mandela was like, that's like bringing out the big players in terms of inspirational quotes.
It was subtle, but there was no mistaking.
Oh yeah, it wasn't that
what
subtle.
They were up to. She may have been mummy shamed to hell and back, but every aspect of it was a roaring success. So we had the public yoga class, terrific. The high street outfit, a triumph. And the commercial flight. So she ticked every box. And as well as that, we saw her distancing herself from Andrew and all the messiness that was going on at Balmoral. And to top it all off, she has timed the launch of her SmartWorks capsule collection on the eve of London Fashion Week.
It was a masterful stroke, which may have been the work of her PR firm Sunshine Sachs, who they represented her when she was on Suits, and she has brought them on to help with the Sussex Royal Foundation and her own image as well.
Yeah, she got a huge amount of heat for this week about how she wants to be more of a Hollywood celebrity with a Hollywood PR firm rather than trusting the Buckingham Palace PR advisors, even though they have made it very clear that Meghan is not a priority for them. No. And I think it's smart to reach out to advisors that it's the same team that she worked with when she was an actress, when she was on Suits. So these are people that have known her for years, and it's a team that she trusts.
But what are we going to be talking about next week?
Well, we've got Harry partying at the 5th anniversary celebration of Invictus Games. Might see a little bit of Meghan there too. We will also have Will hanging out with some hunky firefighters.
Oh, I can't wait to see these pictures.
And the much anticipated launch of Meghan's SmartWorks collection at the beginning of London Fashion Week.
Thank you so much for listening. And if you like this episode, please leave us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at AirheadsPod and on Facebook at Airheads.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip with a friend? No way! Cruising on down Main Street.